Texas Grit road trip. And when I say Texas Grit, I'm not necessarily using it in a negative. We've all seen the pictures of the dilapidated gas stations and buildings, because the weather out here in West Texas and East Texas and Southern Texas, I guess, is pretty much of a factor in really wearing towns and buildings out. If it's not hurricanes over on the Gulf Coast, it's just the wind and the rain and the intensity of the sunlight in West Texas. Now, right now, out there, it's about 75 degrees. It's just beautiful weather. It's been windy all day. The wind's finally dying down, so that's pretty great. I'm on my way over to Tucson and then ultimately to Organ Pipe. But I'm going through some of the most hard scrabble country in Texas. And again, the weather makes these towns look more dilapidated than they are, I guess. Although, I will say that last summer when I did my whole thing about Wisconsin, one of the problems that we have in Wisconsin is a lot of these small towns are shadows of what they used to be, because the nature of farming has changed. Farmers can cultivate larger and larger crops with fewer and fewer guys. So you don't have this intense family and hullabaloo and so forth in the smaller towns in Wisconsin, or even, I guess, anywhere in rural America, because back in the day people had 125-acre and 200-acre farms. They couldn't farm much more than that. The same is true in Texas to a degree. In Texas, as we get out into the far reaches, the really rural, desolate places, it's oil, it's ranching, and other stuff. And I don't know. I know that the oil economy is up and down, and I know that the agricultural economy is up and down. And these are big cattle ranches mostly. Now, cattle ranching is actually a good play these days, but you can see that many of these towns probably don't look like what they look like in the 1950s. Were you to take this road trip, you would find it difficult if you had kids, or difficult if you were looking for quote-unquote sights to see. There certainly are museums and places, but you're on back roads a lot, and you have to be careful of how much fuel you have, because you're going to be in these areas where there's no fuel for 88 to 100 miles. I'm really working the maps, and I'm really working to make sure that I'm very economic with my travel. So I'm not really doing a lot of, out of the way stuff, and I'm not doing a lot of stuff that I would have to detour from in order to conserve fuel. This truck eats a little bit more fuel than the other one, and I'm still getting used to it. And what I'm doing is just kind of being very judicious with where I go and how I plan it. And I've been doing this a long time, so I know how to travel that way. So I'm in the truck stop here at Love's in Pecos. I've been hitting truck stops all along, and it's really cheap. I stay in the back with the trucks, because this truck is, as I will say, I'm sure more than once, too big to park out front with the Great Unwashed. So I'm back here with the Greater Unwashed in the truck area here at Love's, or any of the other truck stops I go to. So let's get into it. Well, our story begins for this episode in Tennessee at the Natchez Trace Trail, which starts just north of where I got on, and it goes all the way down to Natchez, Mississippi. There's a lot of history along this trail. One part of it is the Trail of Tears, the famous period when Jackson ran the Indians out of Tennessee. It's not a pleasant piece of U.S. history, but it is true. It was originally, when it was literally a trail, it was a well-used trail back in the day. It was also the dividing line between the Choctaw and the Chickasaw. If you can go in the fall, October through early November, the weather's great, and it's just a really a magical trip if you go the whole way. I went all the way down to Natchez. I kept heading west on through to Port Arthur, Texas. So all the way through Louisiana, and then down to Port Arthur, where I stayed at this campground that they never. I called. I did all the things. They never charged me. So I was there for like 4 days, And Port Arthur is a really interesting place. Port Arthur has a ton of history. It was a port before they discovered oil, but they discovered oil, and then Port Arthur became a key shipping point when the Permian Basin began to develop. And today it is loaded with refineries and shipping and people who are working in this environment. This is a working place. Are we watching the ships together? There it goes. There it goes. You know what I got for you tonight? I got some bacon for you. Many people go, oh, isn't that where Janis Joplin was from? I believe so. She was from Port Arthur or Beaumont. I don't think she was from Beaumont. A few years ago, I went through Beaumont. I didn't go through Beaumont this time. I pretty much stayed in Port Arthur, and I had a great time. There were boats. There was a huge marsh fire. And then there was this dog that befriended me, and at one night I heard him barking frantically. And I got up and I went out there and I said, what is going on with you? And he was pointing at this marsh fire that was pretty large. And I realized the dog was really freaked out about the fire, and I kind of tried my best to explain to him that he didn't have anything to worry about. And then he became my friend, and he pretty much hung around my rig the entire time. People leave these animals, or they get lost and they end up in these campgrounds or these places, parks, which is what this thing was. And I think there's some degree of anxiety that they have because they seem to be just waiting for someone to come. And one of the ladies, her name was Cookie, she said, you should take that dog. I called him Buster, and she called him Bo or something like that. And she said, you should take that dog. And I said, I can't take an animal. I will not subject an animal to this life because it is so stressful for them. They are trying to protect their territory. They're in your vehicle. They're moving around. And it's just not right for a dog to have to go through that. So Port Arthur was a great just sort of moment for me to get the clamshells open, breathe the warm air, and watch the boats go out to sea. And it was beautiful weather, and I really had a great time at Port Arthur, even though it's a very industrial place. There's a little store across from this campground where you can get burritos and things like that, and I just had a great time while I was there. I didn't really have a plan, and the reason is I'm very focused on the truck. So this is kind of a shakedown cruise for Unit 11, and I'm really focused on the truck and how's the truck running, and I'm not really thinking about where I want to go. I have a loose idea of where I am headed at this point, and I wanted to go to Galveston. I've been to Galveston 2 or 3, 4 times, and I really like Galveston, so I went out to Galveston. And when I talk about Texas grit, this is an example. These hurricanes and the heat and the humidity down there just tears these houses up. And there's a lot of these houses on stilts, which are Airbnbs, lots of these new developments, which pretty much, I imagine, come after the destruction of a hurricane. And still got another on the way to Port Aransas, got another surprise ferry ride. On another rather unexpected ferry ride. So I'm at Port Aransas. I don't remember the ferry ride. Maybe there was a ferry ride. I don't remember, but I'm very happy to be here. It's been an all-day trip, so it's 4 p.m. I left about 11:30, and here I am. So the next target for me was Port Aransas. This is my favorite little dusty beach town in Texas that I have reluctantly decided to share in this video. I actually do not like to share these locations because the whole nomad community, will converge on a place like that. Now, Galveston was one thing, but let me tell you about Port Aransas. You get this beach pass to go out on the beach, and you get 3 days a month, and then you get out of there. If you're not there, or if you're there too long, you get a $500 fine. So this idea that you can just go down to the beach at Aransas and hang out is suspect. You can go and hang out for 3 days. So I went down there, The beach at Aransas at various times, I've been there 2 or 3 times, and it's never been that great. So if you go in the summer, I'm sure it's very hot. If you go in the winter, it's cold and rainy, and the sand just gets into everything. It took me a week to clean this thing out. And obviously I'm very concerned about sand getting into the engine compartment. So as soon as I got out of there, another ferry ride, of course, I headed west, and I don't remember where I went to get the truck washed, but this would be the second truck wash. They're not cheap. They're about $65, and there's always extra charges. And, you sit in the truck and they wash your truck. And it's pretty great, though, because it's the only way to really get a vehicle this large really clean. And it's really important, especially with salt air and sand, to get the truck clean. So that's what I did. And then continued to head west. So I headed across East Texas with West Texas as my ultimate goal. So I went on 44 out of Corpus Christi to Encinal, Texas, which is way out there. This is still East Texas. This part of the trip is indicative of sort of this grit that people talk about. And as I mentioned in the open, I don't consider that a negative. I consider grit to be very complimentary, because these people out here work really hard. They're in the oil fields. They are running little businesses. They're doing what they do, and it always seems to me that they're very busy. I am in West Texas. Not too far into West Texas. We're about 25 miles from Sanderson, Texas. But this is a part of the country that is very desolate. And sometimes I talk about road trips that you probably wouldn't take. This is one of them. In the sense that there's not a lot to, aside from the Judge Roy Bean Museum, which is about 25 miles back, there's not a lot in this part. Langtree, Texas, there's not a lot in this part of the country to do except drive and over these great expanses, and it's really starting to spread out. So if as we do this video, we're starting to see the expanses spread out, and it's really, I love it. I love these big open roads, but some people might find them to be either frightening because there's really nothing. Got to make sure you have a full tank of fuel, because you're not going to see a fueling station for quite a while. And so that's it. West Texas. All through Texas, you hear all this talk about the U.S. economy, and I don't want to get into it. I mean, there's the metrics, but Texas is alternately, in a way, it looks depressed, but on the other hand, there's an awful lot of activity all through Texas, and not just in the big cities. So I'm not sure what to think about the economy, other than the economy of Texas is perhaps maybe a little bit more vibrant than other parts of the country. But you see a lot of dilapidated buildings because the wind and the heat just destroy these buildings. So a building that's maybe 5 or 10 years old can look really old, and the old buildings are really beat up. But anyway, West Texas, on 44, out of Corpus Christi to Encino, on 83 to Uvalde, and then on to 90 West, all the way to Del Rio, with a stop in a place called Sanderson. And Sanderson is one of those towns that looks beat up. I guess they call this Texas grit. These towns out in West Texas are probably similar to the towns that you see, along the Gulf Coast, where the weather, kind of beats them down. The sun, the wind, and they're not as beaten down as they look, obviously. But sometimes, like a lot of small towns, this place, Sanderson, Texas, has probably seen better days. But it's also kind of an interesting and cool place that you'd want to go. There's a little coffee place over there, the Ferguson Motor Company. It's way back there. And it's just kind of a nice little sort of community place that I got some coffee at. It's good. But I love these rural small towns that I pass through on these back roads that nobody ever follows. You know, I suppose if you're going to Big Bend, you're going to come down this way. 285 is right here. That goes north towards New Mexico. You know, but in general, these are not locations that people flock to for whatever reason. It's not Grand Canyon or someplace like that. So that's what makes them charming. And it also makes me kind of not want to say, you know, where it is, because, you know, both I want to support, obviously, but, you know, I don't know that I want to say where it is because I don't want to ruin it. But let me tell you a little bit about Sanderson. One of the things I've learned is all of these towns have a ton of history. And so on first pass, you are usually unaware of the history unless you Google it. And that really doesn't do it justice. All of these towns and all of West Texas is loaded with all kinds of history. You know, there's Civil War history. There is a lot of history of segregation between Hispanics and whites down in this area, and it's only recently, if at all, that they've kind of started to kind of work things out. Most of the people in some of these towns are not white, they are Hispanic. Sanderson in particular was a place where they farmed sheep and goats, so they had sheep and goat ranches. But the scenery here doesn't have the majesty of the scenery of West Texas, in the sense that it's kind of scrubby, it's kind of low, and the towns are very much working agricultural or oil towns, or both. So between oil, which is all through these various areas, you'll see the oil rigs. So we're talking about some pretty extensive and what appear to be rather wealthy ranches all through this area, coming 90 west on the way to Del Rio. Just woke up. Got the coffee going. My hands are shaking because I need my coffee. So let me just set this down. Yeah, this is the morning ritual, is making the coffee back here at in the coffee service area. So here we go. Cheers. So I love Del Rio because I've camped at Amistad Reservoir a couple of times, and this campground here is really gorgeous. It's a beautiful campground. It's very seldom heavily populated, and I met a guy, Gil, there from Canada. He's heading down to where I am. I met another guy who is also headed down towards Organ Pipe in Arizona, and yet even more, Lisa Witherspoon and her husband were going down to Big Bend, which is, you know, not exactly a hop, skip, and a jump, but it's about 120 miles from Del Rio. And here I met a cat. A cat befriended me, and it's the same thing with Cat. Did someone leave you? And now you're here, and I'm giving you some water, and you had some sausage, and you had some cheese. This is my friend. She has a little white spot on her chest, so she's not 100% black cat. But she's my little friend. She's just really drinking up the water. She's really thirsty. And I also gave her some cheese and some sausage. But, you know, a couple of times I've seen some animals that clearly somehow got away from their people, and they just hang around these places. That dog in Port Arthur, and then this cat, they won't leave because they think their people are coming back. It's kind of sad. Hope she does okay. But she's not coming with me. You're not coming with me. I don't need an animal. My heart goes out to these animals, but I'm not going to take them with me. And everybody I talked to on the phone said, well, you should take that cat, a little black cat. It's important to point out that this Del Rio campground, the border is literally as far you can throw a stone and it'll hit in Mexico. So the Park Service and the Customs Service is very active in that region. And I met one of the officers and we had quite a conversation about the truck. I appreciate, this is one of the things I do want to say, having spent a lot of time on BLM lands, I appreciate national parks because they enforce the rules and they want to know who's in their parks, and they make sure that there isn't any trouble, and they let you know that they're there, and if there is, that you are to call them. You'll never see that at a BLM. So I just had to point that out. I can't help myself. So from there, it's on to another truck stop. Well, it's sundown in West Texas, and I am going into the Loves for a little Carl's Jr. because I have had a steady diet of bacon and eggs for the last few days. So I usually park way back in the back there by the sign. And I actually sleep better in a truck stop than I do at a campground sometimes, because I've been doing this so long, and I find the truck stop to be, especially now with the big truck, I don't have to park in the front. So being a CDL holder, I'm back here in the back with the truckers, and it's great. I love it. Well, I am partial to truck stops. Lots of different shots of the different truck stops that I've stayed in, and certainly a lot of Love's truck stops. Although I've stayed at Petro, I've stayed at TA, and some of the others. I don't want people to think I'm doing commercials for Love's. I just am partial to Love's truck stops. And I find them relaxing. One of the things in the nomad community is all about trying to find free places to camp, campgrounds, and parking lots where you go in and ask permission if you can stay, and all of that stuff. Because I have a CDL and because I have a larger vehicle, I really am entitled to use the facilities at these truck stops and park with the trucks. They really don't care how long you stay, but more than a day or two would attract attention, and so you wouldn't want to do that. They have showers, and some of these truck stops are in various stages of wear and tear, especially out in Texas, because they are so heavily used. And it doesn't matter if it's Pilot or Flying J or TA or these new sort of Petros or any of these truck stops that people go to. They can be really worn out, or they can be brand new. It just depends. But the truck stops are actually very relaxing. People often say, "Oh, it must be really, it must be really loud, and you can't sleep." I never have a problem sleeping in a truck stop. So, I just want to take a quick moment and just sort of salute the truck stops and the truckers. I certainly am not a trucker. I don't know how they do it. It's a tough job, so I certainly don't envy them the hard parts of their job. But like everything else on the road, whether it's nomad life or traveling as I am doing, there is a romance to the open road. There's a romance to, even under the constraints that truckers have, there's a romance to the implicit freedom of being able to roll down the road. And of course, trucking is a highly regulated industry. And again, they do have a lot of constraints, but I just want to salute the truck stops. Even the bathrooms, while run down in some cases, and it doesn't matter what truck stop company it is, it just depends on the use for that truck stop. The showers are always functional, they always work, and you really, it's like a little hotel room for 15 minutes. And it's really a relief. So, hats off to the truck stops. Next stop, Pecos. we're just warming things up here because I don't like to go anywhere with the oil pressure real high. Right now it's above 75 psi, so we're going to let it drop a little bit. The truck needs to warm up. Got plenty of air pressure. All my checks, I usually get out, look around, check the tires, and because it's not a commercial truck, I really don't have to do the mechanical checks, but I find the mechanical checks to be very useful, so I do the mechanical checks regularly. I'm not going to do one this morning. You just pop the hood, check the oil. I did that yesterday morning, so I think we're good. And now it's just a question of, do I have enough fuel to make it to Pecos? 55 miles, 50 miles. I got about a half a tank. I think I can make it. Maybe. We'll see. The other thing is backing up these 18-wheelers I don't know how they do it. It's really, not easy to do. So I hate to sit here and try to, act as though I'm putting pressure on this guy to, do it, because he's probably new, and it's difficult. It's difficult to get here. I mean, some of these guys can do it like nothing. It's just experience, and of course they teach you how to do it if you take the combination truck or the trailer, Class A test, and it takes some practice even to do. And the trucks that they train you on are really rather long. They're not big 18-wheelers, at least where I was. They meet the qualifications, so they're a little smaller than what these guys are dealing with. So, time for us to go. Well, we're on the road to Pecos, Texas. And the more I work on this video, the more I think that we really do have a working title of Texas Grid Road Trip. Texas Grid can be perceived as a negative title. It's actually the name of a book of photographs. But I don't think it's negative. I think it's just the hard-working section of Texas, if there is such a thing. It's not other parts of Texas that are hard-working. It's not East Texas, it's West Texas, and you'll drive for a long period of time. I'm going slow. I'm going 65. The speed limit is 75. So you'll drive for long distances, especially once you get west of Pecos, and there's just not a lot. There's oil fields and ranches, and we've seen that all the way. Now the sky is opening up, and so we're seeing much wider landscapes, and you can't see them probably, but there's mountains over there. Well, it's laundry day, and we're in Pecos, Texas, at the Fun Wash, which is way over there. And we're walking into the Fun Wash, where I'm about 20 minutes into a double wash. Needed to wash all my stuff. So one of my favorite things to do when I am in any town and I have to do laundry is go and do my laundry at one of these little local laundry places. One of the things about the West and places like this is you get to see what's really going on. One of the things I think is very interesting about these places is that, you come in and your impression is that there's garbage in the parking lot, let's say, because of the wind, or there's stuff around. But almost all of these places, when you get in, they are functioning, they are working, and they're for working people all over the place that come in here to do their laundry because they're on the road, or because they're working in the fields or the oil fields or whatever it is that they're doing. So looks can be deceiving. We're down here by the Dollar General. This is a pretty nice neighborhood part of Pecos. And from the outside, it just looks like kind of a, run down kind of place. And then you come in here and everything's new, it's working, everything's good, So looks can be deceiving when it comes to efficiency and getting things done. And I see this all over this part of the country, this part of Texas, is what you think is not working is actually working pretty well. So that's kind of neat. So then we got into West Texas, 285 north to Fort Stockton. Lots of truck stops, lots more history in this region. There is a ton of history, and if you drive through these areas, you know, you're going to see a lot of oil fields. You're gonna experience the whole landman if you're watching that TV show experience. Coming out of Del Rio, I took 285 north all the way up to Pecos, and from Pecos all the way north to so it's Texas 285 all the way north to 652. This is where a lot of really old structures line the road all the way out on 285 and also 652. When you get to that intersection, there is more traffic at 285 and 652 than in some cities in the United States, and it's all semis, traffic jams after traffic jam getting there. The truck stop is packed there. I think there's a Pilot there. It's packed. And then truck, all white pickups and F-450s and so forth, 4500 Chevys, which are the oil companies. Here we are out in the oil fields. They're doing a lot of construction on these roads always because the number of trucks out here is huge, and so the roads get really beat up. So the Texas Department of Transportation, or whatever they call it, is always working on the highways to make sure that, you know, they're passable, I guess. But this is what it looks like. I mean, in terms of road trips, this is what you're looking at. It's not the Grand Canyon, that's for sure. It's kind of scrubby, and yet at the same time it has its own little sense of majesty. Then you go out on 652, you see more oil rigs and water pumping stations and so forth, and then you get into the desert and you follow that all the way to 62-180. I did that because I'm trying to make a trip straight over to New Mexico and then on 9 all the way over to Arizona, because I want to stay low because of the weather. I don't want to go up into the big mountains. And in addition, I want to end up in southern Arizona because I want to go to Organ Pipe, which is right down sort of in the middle of the state, down on the border. So I'm trying to be very judicious about the way I arrange my travel and follow sort of this rough straight line. This part of the highway 62-180 does go through the Guadalupe Mountains, and they are spectacular. So I got a little practice going up and down hills with this giant heavy vehicle, and ended up at another truck stop in El Paso, which is where I am now. My sister thinks that I'm crazy to stay in truck stops because she thinks they're dangerous, and I guess they are. If you invite danger, they're dangerous. If you're just not going to do that, they're not that dangerous. So I am in El Paso, over here on the business end of a Love's truck stop, where they do the oil changes and everything else at Speedco, and the fuel station, in between a bunch of 18-wheelers. This is my home away from home. And I just want to say that I really enjoyed this part of the trip. I really enjoy these industrial and hard-working sections of West Texas. You know, when you think Texas, you think Houston, and you think about the Gulf and the beaches. Even those are sort of hard luck in a way. And I guess if you're watching the show Landman, you are seeing the oil fields and you're experiencing that. But this is a working place. It is a gritty place, and that I mean that in a good way. And it's really cool. I love seeing this, and I always have. I've been through here 2 or 3 times, and I get a huge kick out of seeing all of this activity. The truck stops are jack full, I mean completely full, and there's trucks everywhere, all kinds of trucks, every kind of truck you can imagine out here in the oil fields, and all along from El Paso to Pecos and and all the points in between coming out from the Gulf. And it all goes, I guess, up to Port Arthur to be shipped out. Natural gas and all kinds of fuel. And, you know, those of us who are driving diesels, we love it. Before we go on to the next adventure, I want to take a second to dedicate this episode to the stray dogs and cats that I've encountered and will encounter, however way they end up in a stray situation. Especially my friend from Port Arthur and the little black cat with a white patch that I encountered in Del Rio, because they really are, they're basically put in a situation where they have to beg, and I seem to run into this a lot, and I don't know whether that is because of hurricanes or natural disasters. They get separated from their families, or they're just put out and left to fend for themselves. But I can't take an animal, but it doesn't mean that I don't feel, I don't want to say I feel sorry for them. It's just, as I said before, my heart goes out to those creatures. And so we're going to dedicate this episode to the stray dogs and cats of the world. And from here, it's on to New Mexico and Arizona, and new adventures as we head into Christmas and the New Year. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from the Bob Davis Podcasts, and we'll see you soon. So thanks for watching. This is Podcast 1166, Texas Grit Road Trip. Bye-bye. We're coming across, basically 9 across the southern part of New Mexico, right by the border. Over there is Mexico, basically. And this is a long stretch of just empty road through here. And, I'm reminded of Billy the Kid and a lot of these guys that used to ride through here, either on their way down to Mexico or some hideout or something. And cattle drives and things of that nature 100 years ago when there was no road here. And it's still just empty and gorgeous and beautiful and warm. And I did this because I didn't want to go up in the mountains. I wanted to, be out here, where it's warm and where, I can have this kind of a vista rather than taking big mountains. So we're tooling along at 65 or so. 39 miles to Columbus, New Mexico.